Welcome to the Happy Black Woman Podcast, where we're on a mission to empower women to transform their lives through personal development and entrepreneurship. We bring you all the information, inspiration, and motivation you need to create a life of happiness, success, and freedom. Now, please welcome your host, the happy Black woman herself, Rosetta Thurman.
Hello, everyone. It is Rosetta, and welcome back to the Happy Black Woman Podcast. It's been a few weeks since I have shared with all of you, and I'm delighted that I have been in my little studio here recording some awesome interviews and conversations with some amazing Black women entrepreneurs. And today is no different. Today, I am speaking with the one and only Brigitte Barrow. She is the young at heart creator of BJB Youth Training Services, and she is here to share about her journey, her story, and some tips for all of you. So welcome, Brigitte. Thank you for joining me on the show.
Thank you, Rosetta. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, me and Brigitte have had such a great time getting to know each other and working together over these past months because she's a member of our Happy Black Woman Mastermind. I love to share with you guys how I met my guest, and I meet just such great, incredible women in my work that I thought to myself, why not bring them to you so you guys can meet them? So it's definitely been a pleasure having you in the mastermind, and I would love for everyone who doesn't know how awesome you are, Brigitte, tell everyone a little bit about what you do.
Sure. Well, my mission is helping youth-centered organizations to reach their goals of educating, empowering, and enhancing the lives of girls, young women, and aging out foster youth. I am driven to help them prepare for real life.
There's so much need for the work that you're doing, Brigitte. And I know there's so many women in our Happy Black Woman tribe who are listening, and they belong to those different organizations. They work for those organizations. And I know that you are a resource for all of those out there who are working with these different groups of youth. So tell us a little bit about why you chose to do that in your business. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Sure. Yes. Well, I started out young. I ran away from home at the age of 17, just soon after I turned 17 years old. I went out into the world trying to be self-reliant. It was unplanned. I wasn't prepared at all. And I faced a lot of challenges and some dangers. And in that process, I wound up in a state youth facility, which was pretty traumatic for me. My plans in my head were different. I was thinking that, if I go out and I'm out there enrolled in some sort of school and working, I can make my way. But I was going from pillar to post because I didn't have family. My family was in Baton Rouge at the time, my extended family. And so I was with different people. And so, like I said, I ended up in a state youth facility for quite a few months. And after that experience, it did not alter my desire to be self-reliant and independent. And so after that experience, I returned home for a short while, approximately 1.5 years. And in that time, I pursued my associate's degree. And after graduating from school at 21, shortly after I got my first corporate job at age 22, and the following year, before turning 23, I got my first apartment on my own. But through that process, I had many experiences that were some failures and some successes. And so ultimately, what I realized is that between the age of 17, when I initially left home, and my mid to late 20s, I realized what a critical demographic that is. And because of all of my failures and successes, I became passionate about speaking to youth, usually in my family or extended family or the children of my friends, always trying to guide them and shield them from some of the pitfalls in life.
Yeah.
And I realized it It is a passion of mine. And when that all came together for me in my thoughts, and when I really grasped it after doing some deep digging and some self-help books and just on this journey to figure out what my purpose was, it hit me. It finally dawned on me and it resonated. This is what I've been doing all along. And this is what I'm most passionate about.
Wow. What a story. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. There's so many young women who go through similar experiences, leaving home for whatever reason. And a lot of them, they don't get any guidance and they have so many bumps in the road, and it takes them a lot longer to get to where they need to be. And unfortunately, many never get to where they want to be. And so I can definitely see how your journey of getting out there on your own at a young age, but still having a successful career and all of that could really be inspiring to people. And I love what you said about you had to do the work to realize this was your purpose, because it sounds to me like this is a calling for you. Like this is what you want to do. And for so many women who are listening, it's like, if you find yourself doing something all the time anyway, that's a good indication of what you might need to do. And of course, figuring out how to do it as a career and all of that is another process. But just knowing this is what you're meant to do, it just sounds like that makes all the difference.
It does. It totally makes all the difference. And once you realize it, there's just something that rises up inside of you and kind of forces you to pursue that.
Yeah. That's what walking in your purpose is about. And it's not always, a straight line or, a smooth path, but it's so worth it to say at the end of your life, like, I influence these girls. I help these young women like that. I know that has to feel really good.
Absolutely. It does. It does. The gist of my whole youth guidance training is affirmation, preparation, and direction. Those things were the things I needed the most during my journey early on. And those are the things that I attempt to really get across to those young people. Yeah.
Well, tell us a little bit about what are the specifics of how you work with these organizations? So do you do speaking or training? What are your services that you offer?
The current services that I offer is my life skills training workshops. And I use that to accomplish my mission of providing personal and professional development for these girls, young women, and foster youth. So in the process, I've created my current training workshop, which is entitled Get Your Life, 4 Steps to Youth Self-Reliance.
I love it. Get your life.
Yes.
That is very cool. Like, how can these young women get their life? Because that's what I've said often, looking at these YouTube videos and just like, what are you doing? What is going on? Who is teaching you? Right. So it's like, you've got this process that you've put together that will help these different young people. And let's get into it. Tell me a little bit about how, I'm just imagining there's so many women listening who work at these different organizations or have connections to foster care youth or young women who really need guidance. What are the 4 steps that you've created to help youth, the 4 steps you talked about to help them become self-reliant?
Sure. I'm so excited to share it. Step 1 is mindset. For me, it's sharing with them and encouraging them and building their character, their self-confidence, including integrity, being dependable, being reliable, and all the elements of having great character and confidence in whatever processes they're in, whether they're attending school or in the workplace. It's just important to have, I made that step 1 because it is important for those things to be a foundation.
Yeah, I agree. So important.
And step 2 is education. In my training workshop, I am helping them to decide on what trade, career training, or college education they'd like to pursue, because it is a part of helping them to leverage that into income.
Yeah, I love that you have the different options that you teach about the education because so many speakers who are empowering young people only give them one option, and that's
Hmm.
college. And
Right.
it just shows that so many people are out of touch because college is not the only way anymore. And I don't even know if I had children, if I would steer them towards college because it's so difficult to get well-paying jobs now without spending a lot of money on your school unless you're, in one of those degree fields that, is very lucrative. And I speak from experience. I was an English major and it's like, that is not a lucrative field. Like you have to really make it work. So I love that you
Hmm.
teach, trades. One of my cousins, she went to cosmetology school because she just loves doing hair. She loves doing makeup and she's on Instagram all the time showing her styles and getting clients from that. So it's a new world out there. And I love that you are sharing that with the girls.
Absolutely. And in that education, you're right. Some of it, they may not have to attend trade or career school or
Mm-hmm.
college if they
Mm-hmm.
have a gift or a skill that can be monetized.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's very important. And then
Mm-hmm.
step three, of course, has to do with earning income. And so in that process, there are two options. You either become employed by an employer or you run your own business.
Mm-hmm.
You become an entrepreneur. And I want them to know that they have that option.
Mm-hmm. I like it. I mean, so can you say a little bit more just about the job piece? Because, so many young women, I mean, it's different for girls and young women than it is for young men.
Mhm.
What do you see as maybe some of the pieces that these organizations need to be aware of as they are guiding these youth to jobs? Like I don't even know what the conversation is happening right now, but I know the statistics out there are like young people are not getting jobs. They have to have 2 and 3 jobs to support themselves. What's something that you've seen in your work that you're like, I wish these youth organizations knew this before they put these girls out there into the workforce? Like what's something you can share that's like, this is missing and this is why this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, one example, and this is through my own experience, is really preparation,
Mm.
using real life experience
Mm-hmm.
with them in going out to interviews,
Yeah.
showing what that looks like, having a one-on-one with them experience to show them what types of questions they ask, how to poise themselves during that process, having their resumes lined up. And also, once they're in the workplace, the importance of what I call being there 10 to 15 minutes earlier than your scheduled time. And once you're in, taking every opportunity that is available to you to sharpen your skills.
Yeah.
A lot of times, the workplace will pay for your training, for more computer training or for personal and professional development classes, that they would take advantage of those. It will not only help them in their current position, but it will put them in a position to negotiate for the next level of position, and which also could mean negotiating for the next level of income.
Yeah, that is so key. I love that you're sharing that in your training and working with these youth organizations because from my perspective, I always felt like when kids are not brought up in the traditional way, it's almost like they're taught to take whatever you can get, like don't try to shoot your sights too high. But what you're saying is, I know you've had a successful career in corporate. Like what you're teaching is what I love is like empowering these young women to get what they want and to maximize the training so they can keep moving up and not just stay in the entry level position because they may not have the traditional education or whatever. Like you can overcome that. I love that you're empowering them to move up the ladder.
Absolutely. Yes. And I can share that because I experienced it. That's the great thing about it.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love this, Brigitte. Okay. So that's step 3. What's step 4?
Step 4 is housing. Whether depending on what they're able to afford, it could be renting on their own or it could be roommating in the meantime, or there are different organizations that offer affordable housing. And then I don't think it's too soon to even introduce home ownership to them and the possibility of that.
I don't think it's too soon. And I love that you're doing that as well. I mean, nobody said anything to me about home ownership, and I'm just now, learning about it in my 30s. And especially if you don't have family members that own property, it's not a normal thing that you would think about. So I love that you are putting all that together in the housing piece. By the end of these steps that you're teaching, what do you hope the girls will go away with?
Well, my goal and what I believe that they will be equipped to do is to handle the basics, to take action so that they are established and able to maintain themselves as independent, successful, self-reliant members of society. Whether or not they are married, that they can do this on their own.
Yeah.
Each of these steps and establish themselves. That is super important.
Yes, I love it. I love it. And I know a lot of women are listening and they're like, I'm 45, but I still need to master the basics, right? So there's a lot of this that you're teaching that is universal in a way to, like, I'm just thinking of women that may have had setbacks in life and kind of need to start over and all that. So a lot of what you're doing is applicable not just to young women, but also to women who, need to bounce back, and empowering them that you can start over, you can still get a good job, you can still go back to school or whatever, or start your own business, whatever you want to do to get your
Very
life.
True. Yes, very true. It applies also to, as you say, adult women. And yes, absolutely. These are great steps for anyone to follow. It just so happens my focus is youth-centered, but yeah, I encourage all women. As a matter of fact, I'm working on workshops as well, which will focus on helping millennial young women to make the transition from college to the corporate workplace.
Oh, yeah. I can totally see that. See that. There's so many things that I think when you're a certain age, you take for granted. And I'm at the older, stage of the millennials, and my cousins are I think, Generation Z. And there's just so many things that I learned, even in high school, that they never learned now going into the workforce. And, in my day, it was not acceptable to text your boss and be like, oh, I'm running late, but for them, that is totally normal that you would text your boss and it's like, oh, hey, I'm running late. K,
Yes.
OMW, on my way. It's just nothing I would ever imagine, they would do. So I'm glad that you're offering support to them as well.
Absolutely.
Well, I am also curious to know, I know that you have chosen to do this as a business, and you are starting to work with different, youth organizations. I'm curious for the women who are listening that they want to turn their calling into a business. What are some of the strategies that help you to stay productive in, putting all the stuff together, getting out there, marketing yourself? How do you stay focused and productive throughout the day?
Well, it can be a challenge, but one of the first things I do after spending some time really with my breathing exercises is to write down what it is I intend to accomplish that day. That's so important, and it helps me to stay focused. I myself can become easily distracted in my thoughts and actions. So keeping that checklist nearby my computer just gives me an at a glance look at where I need to remain focused. And also I find that for me, in being an entrepreneur and most of the time working from home, that is when I'm not out doing workshops, that I find a really cool place in my home to do my work. And for me, that's my living room area because it has the most natural light. So I think where you set up also helps you to stay focused and be productive.
Very, very cool. I love that you said, like, really finding a place that works for you to work. For some people, it is, a coffee shop. For some people, it's in their
Right.
home. For some people, it's a library. So, finding that place that works for you, because honestly, so much of what holds women back from following their calling and walking in their purpose is not getting organized enough to put everything together. So,
Right.
yeah, that's really important. In your journey, I know that you've had a lot of different things that you've done to move forward, but is there a book that you have read that you can recommend to the ladies listening that has inspired you in your journey?
Yes. Oh, yes. One of my favorite books is titled Action Has No Season. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I have
And
not.
yes, it's Strategies and Secrets to Gaining Wealth and Authority. And it's by Michael V. Roberts Jr. V like Victor is the middle initial. And it is a book about the importance of timely decision making, among other keys to wealth and success. And in a nutshell, it is about being keenly aware of, as well as seizing the opportunities that present themselves to you, and then taking action to benefit from them. And aside from my Bible, it is the only other book that I have that has Post-its sticking out of it every other page. The book has prepared me for the opportunities that I'm experiencing right now.
I love it. I love when we get new books to add to the list. I haven't heard of that one yet. So thank you for sharing that with us. And I know that, we've been talking a little bit about how you got to finding your purpose and really saying yes to your calling. But there are so many women listening that they're like, wow, that's great, Brigitte, inspired by you. But I don't know if I could do that. I don't know if I could move forward. So what would be your number one piece of advice you would give to that woman listening that's like, yeah, I would love to do that, but I'm scared, but, right? What would you say to her?
The first thing I would say to her is that time waits for no one. And if you have a burning desire to do something, it is because you are meant to do it. And I would want every woman, especially every Black woman, to know that she is a treasure, a wealth of treasure, and most of which is untapped. So there is so much richness in you. Take a chance on yourself. The odds are you can and will win. You have everything to gain.
Yeah, I love that. I love what you said about once you make that, what you said resonate with me, because it's like, I always talk about the importance of making a decision, that once you make that decision, you can move forward and be successful. But until you make that decision, you're just speculating. You're just like thinking about what might happen or what may not happen, or what, so it's kind of like there's so much freedom in getting out of your head and really getting into the real world and being like, okay, now you can look around and see what to do and how to move forward. Even for you, as you think about, transitioning from being in corporate to being in this world, I know that, it hasn't been a smooth path. I know that it hasn't been a smooth path for me, all these years in Happy Black Woman. But I guess what you're saying is that it's worth the ride.
Right. It is definitely worth the ride. There's nothing like, to me, the liberty now, especially that I'm walking in it, the liberty of doing what it is you really want to do and taking a chance at it. There's a certain surety and security in that. And I wouldn't trade it for the world right now. Yes, there are times of trial and frustration, but I know that I want to spend the rest of my life doing this.
Ditto. Ditto. Yeah, especially the days where you're like, I'm the one. The buck stops here. It's like, oh, my team is not working. It's late at night. My team's not working. It's just me. And it's like, if I want something done, I gotta still do it. But at the same time, it's like, what else am I gonna do with my life? Am I just gonna go and do a job that I'm not passionate about? Am I just to make my life easy? No, that would be no fun. So
no more fun with that.
I just love the different ways that we've been sharing on this podcast of how we can walk in our purpose. And there's so many women that want to do what you're doing, Brigitte. And I know that you definitely will be an inspiration to women listening for years to come. So thank you for sharing your story.
Yes, absolutely. You're welcome.
Yeah.
I did want to just mention one other thing. And that is something that I always say stuck to me like hot sugar on my skin. And that is pray about it or for it like it all depends on God, but take action and do it like it all depends on you. I first heard a pastor say that, and I read it later elsewhere, and I live by it.
So that's like having faith, but also knowing you have to do the work.
Absolutely. That is exactly that.
Yeah. Nothing comes automatically in this life.
Right. And most people, they will get on their knees and pray about it, for 100 years and just praying and praying and praying. But if you're not actually taking action and doing anything, you can't expect for it to manifest.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you. So inspiring conversation that we've had here with Brigitte Barrow. And I know that there will be women listening who want to get connected with you. So how can they find out more about what you do?
Sure. Well, there are a couple of ways to get in contact with me. And one of them is through my website at www.brigittebarrow.com. And for those youth organizations who would like to reach out to me and learn more about my training workshops, they can call me at 800-258-5268 or set up a free 30-minute discovery call on my Calendly, calendly.com/Brigitte Barrow.
Wonderful. And we will put those links in the show notes on our blog at happyblackwoman.com. So you can go to the site and check it out and find out how to get in touch with Brigitte. And definitely, can you share a little bit about the free gift that you have on your site as well?
Yes, sure. So it is Auntie Brigitte's 5 tips to connecting with youth and guiding their footsteps. And it's a 5-tip piece of information that I think is very useful.
Yeah. Great. So again, when you go to the website, brigittebarrow.com, you can also download her 5 tips because she has such incredible insight on especially young women at this state at their young stage of life, to really help to guide them. And so for all of you who work at, nonprofits, youth organizations, definitely check out what Brigitte is doing. It's really powerful. So Brigitte, thank you again for being on the show. It's been a pleasure having you.
Thank you, Rosetta. I appreciate the opportunity, and it's also been a pleasure for me.
Yes, wonderful. All right, ladies. Well, there you have it. Our wonderful conversation with Brigitte Barrow is just one of many that we have been having over the past 2 years. We're about to celebrate our 2-year anniversary here on the podcast. So if you have missed any episodes, go to our website at happyblackwoman.com, click on the podcast tab, and you can binge listen to all of the episodes totally free. Until next time, everyone, have a beautiful rest of your day. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Happy Black Woman podcast. If you want all the show's notes from today's episode, go to happyblackwomanpodcast.com. Plus, we'll send you a copy of Rosetta's free life mapping workbook. We look forward to empowering you next time. And until then, do something this week that makes you happy.